It's hard to talk about completing a desktop listening setup, a gaming setup, or a podcast setup even without mentioning the legendary Beyerdynamic headphones, specifically the DT770s Pro. Well, what if I told you that now we have a great alternative to those that sound even more fun and in a few aspects actually beat those? Ladies and gentlemen, Ultrasone Signature Pure. Basically the story with those is that in May we went to high-end Munich and there we met the guys at Ultrasone. We spoke to Robert Winterhoff, the current COO of the company. He's shown us quite a few prototypes, quite a few headphones that at the time were only supposed to come out later that now have premiered, and one of those models has been the Pure. We've had lots of fun speaking to Robert, huge shout out to that guy, and the Pure was actually the headphone that we've liked the most out of the entire lineup of new Ultrasone headphones, and this is the model that we took home. And after we went back to the hotel after the show, we've done some listening to these specifically and quite a few others as well, and we were really shocked at how much value for money you get when listening to those. But as we all know, sonic performance is not the only thing that Beyerdynamic headphones excel at, so we're gonna take a closer look, compare the two, and see which one comes out on top. Something that I really like that not many headphone manufacturers do nowadays is including something to carry your headphones in, whether it's a bag, a pouch, or basically anything. Well, in case of Beyerdynamic, we have this little nylon bag. It's pretty clean, but it lacks any kind of protective features, so of course, those are built like tanks, but if you want something extra, then I think you might need something else than this bag. And that's one of the areas that the Pure takes the lead. Here we have a kind of a padded pouch with some lining inside and another compartment for your accessories, your cables, whatever you want. If I had to choose between those two accessories, which one I would use to take my headphones on a trip, well, without a doubt, this one takes the cake. Build quality and comfort. I have to say, in terms of build quality, the ruggedness, Beyerdynamic headphones are very tough to beat. Those are built like tanks and basically every part is user replaceable, and that's a huge plus for them. And this is one of those areas where Ultrasone kind of falls a little bit behind. They're a little bit more flimsy, more creaky. I wouldn't be scared of those getting broken at the first occasion, definitely not, but they're not as sturdy and a little bit less well made than the Beyerdynamics. However, in terms of comfort, I have to say the Ultrasone edges the Beyerdynamics out a little bit. That is due to the fact that the pads on those are quite substantially thicker and it's a very lightweight construction that can basically sit on your head for however long you want them to. While we're at ergonomics, let's address the elephant in the room. In this 80 ohm version of the DT770, we get a 3-meter cable. I don't know anyone who needs that much cable in their desktop setup, and I have to say, at some point it really gets kind of annoying having that much cable lying around. And unfortunately, if you've been into headphones, if you've seen the DTs on forums, on Facebook groups, basically anywhere, you'll know that there are tons of people that have to mod their headphones in order to include a detachable cable. Of course, I'm talking about the DT770. This one is not detachable. You're kind of stuck with this single-ended cable that ergonomically is not the worst, but honestly, I would love to be able to have a replacement without having to tear my headphones apart. And here the Ultrasone come in clutch. This cable is kind of like an old telephone cable of sorts. It's not like the most beautiful or the best functional cable, but it's not as long, it's stretchy, and it's detachable most of all, and that's a huge point for Ultrasone right there. Of course, we don't buy our headphones strictly for the ergonomics, we buy them for the sound. And Beyerdynamics are a legend for a reason. Those are enjoyed by millions of people around the world. They have a very technical, kind of a V-shaped signature that for many people it's kind of a little bit too hot in the treble, but overall it's a really good balanced and a tasteful sound signature, I have to say. But something that the signature really excels at is the engagement factor. Let me tell you all about it. I always start with the bass when assessing the kind of sonic value of the headphones, and this one is going to be no different. Basically, the bass response on those is quite shocking. It's quite shocking how technical and kind of contained they are and how clean the bass is without invading other frequencies. I think bass here is the greatest contributor to the overall engagement factor of those headphones. After we came back after the show, as I've told you before, we've put those on each, like one after the other, and we really forgot to take those off. Any electronic track, any hip hop track were so much fun and so engaging. I have to say, even if you put on like the most boring track you can think of, this kind of bass response is gonna make it pop, definitely. And why is that? Well, the bass here packs quite a huge punch, and the punch is so crisp, clean and technical that it's actually kind of hard to believe that they managed to squeeze that much potential out of a headphone that sits at around 170 euro. Of course, I wouldn't be talking about those headphones if the bass was the only good thing about them. The midrange and the treble share some DNA, I have to say. They're both very clean and kind of pushed back a little bit in comparison to the bass, but still, we have plenty of information, a smooth sound signature, which ties in together with the bass very well. Of course, if you have some more bassy tracks or lower male vocals, the overall mid-range response here shines beautifully. Not so much with the female vocals or something like high-pitched instruments. Still, they're executed fairly well, but those lower sounds are what really takes your breath away. The treble doesn't really jump out in your face. It has a little bit of sparkle and a good amount of detail and dynamics. However, as you probably know by now, it is not the star of the show. It plays its role well, but it's not at like the frontier of the sound. The one gripe I have with its technical performance is the soundstage, which especially combined with like this overwhelming, in a good way, overwhelming bass response, sometimes the sound gets a little bit too cramped. If you're a fan of an airy sound signature, I think the DTs might be a little bit better way to go. However, apart from that, there really isn't much to complain about when it comes to the signature. So if it was up to me, DT770s at 130 plus euro or the signature at 170. I must admit, the engagement factor and the fun I've had listening to those makes the price difference worth it for me. Even after listening to some very high-end headphones like the HE1000 SE, I still find myself coming back to those for that more fun and more bassy kind of listening session. Also, did I mention that those are ridiculously easy to drive? You could probably plug them into like a PlayStation controller or something, which makes them so much more versatile than many other headphones. Apart from listening to music and making videos, I like playing some video games in my spare time, and I found those to be really fun to use for gaming, especially if you play shooting style games. This really has a kick to it and it makes itself known when you play CS, Battlefield, whatever you want, those can do it and you'll be happy with them. Even despite the smaller soundstage, this will definitely not hinder your ability to read the sound cues, so you don't have to be worried about that. To me, those headphones are all about the fun factor, and this is reason enough for me to buy them. Couple that with great comfort, great accessories, and a very decent price point, I think it's a really strong contender to become one of the more popular headphones at this price range. Is it about to sell as many units as the DT770 and DT990? I don't think so, because this is an impossibly difficult task. However, I do think that if you're considering a new headphone in the sub 200 euro tier, this is definitely worth your time to check out, to listen for yourself, to test them out as much as you can, and I can't recommend these enough. And if I had 170 euro for headphones that I would have to use in many different settings for gaming, listening, stuff like that, I think those would be my personal choice. Okay guys, that's gonna do it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Robert, for providing us with the sample. This has been the DT770. This has been the Ultrasone Signature Pure. And this has been Matthew. See you guys in the next one. Bye.